Deadly Creatures on its face has a fresh concept and slick style, but when all that's stripped away, it's really just a brawler with some neat gimmicks. To say it's a departure from developer Rainbow Studios' normal fare is an understatement. They most recently developed MX vs. ATV Unleashed on the HD consoles, and their previous games were mostly all races as well. And funnily enough, the company's based in Phoenix, Arizona, and all their racers seem to be dirt-based, and this game takes place in the desert, so I guess you just do what you know. Anyway, Deadly Creatures focuses on two main characters, a scorpion and a tarantula. Now both are unconventional protagonists in that the creatures are usually seen in a negative light, and the fact that the game's story revolves around them in an indirect way most of the time. There are in fact human characters, but they are only heard from for the most part through cleverly constructed cutscenes that have you eavesdropping on their conversations. And both of the humans are voiced by Billy Bob Thornton and Dennis Hopper, by the way, so it's really some quality stuff. The storytelling's nothing revolutionary, but it is a style that I really appreciate, and I wish it was used more often because it results in much fewer breaks in gameplay, and it makes for a much more immersive experience in my opinion. Both of the game's characters have their own distinct movesets, talking about the tarantula and the scorpion. The tarantula is much more agile, and it's able to move a lot faster, it shoots webbing, and it even launches stealth attacks, whereas the scorpion is much more tank-like. Its moves are much more like a wrestler, and it even has finishing moves. Honestly, I found the tarantula to be much more enjoyable as its combat works well for the most part. And the scorpion is slow and cumbersome, and it takes a long time to recover from hits, and since it can't jump, aerial attacks will frustrate you to no end since you really have to wait for the enemy to land before you can hit it. And since the combat is pretty much all about dodging and countering in this game, the slow movement of the scorpion just feels broken a lot of times. And graphically speaking, Deadly Creatures is technically very impressive for a Wii game. Awesome lighting, textures, animations are unbelievable, and one of the crispest progressive scan images, they all add up to make a feast for the eyes. It's too bad then that these awesome impressions are soon smeared by a bad frame rate and surprising load sessions. The controls are really tight, and the motions work and are fun to use for the most part, and thankfully their sensitivity as well as the pointer sensitivity is customizable in the options. On the audio front, the game excels like few others on the system. All of the music is entirely ambient, so there's rarely a moment where it gets loud or obnoxious. The sound effects are really nice too, with some very intimidating hisses and roars when appropriate. Although whether or not a rat actually sounds like a lion to a scorpion is anyone's guess. The level design is pretty straightforward for the most part. The game starts with you in your natural habitat, and as you progress through the game, the levels become more and more human-oriented, meaning that you get around more human stuff. The final sequence of the game, yeah, pretty much guarantees that I'll never want either one of these motherfuckers as a pet.
Crappy shells. I should have fixed them years ago.
There are some grubs scattered throughout the game to encourage you to explore the world they've created, and you'll want to as some of the levels are really expansive. These grubs serve as the game's unlockable content enabler, meaning the more you collect, the more stuff you get to see. Basically, it's just concept art and a couple of behind-the-scenes videos, but it's certainly better than nothing. Overall, Deadly Creatures comes together to be an enjoyable experience, but it's a short one. The game will take you about 5 hours to complete the first time through, and whether or not you feel it's worth going back to collect the rest of the grubs is going to be entirely dependent on how much you like the combat. Personally, I think it makes for a great rental, but hey, others may disagree.